All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Retro Gamers Podcast, episode 157. Larry here.
And Anthony here.
What's going on, Ed? How are you?
It's going well. We're in the countdown till one of my favorite holidays of the year, Halloween.
I thought you were gonna say your birthday, which actually would have been yesterday when this drops. Happy birthday!
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I tend to skip over that and I look towards Halloween.
Your birthday gifts are in the mail. That I can promise you.
Well, you didn't have to get me anything, but thank you.
No, I know I didn't have to, but I saw a couple things I thought they were kind of cool, and then I completely lost track of time and realized, oh, okay, it's the last week of October. Oops.
Did you get me what I asked for, which was a new abdominal wall, so I don't have to have this stupid mesh in me?
No. We slowly plan on making you. We want to, rebuild you, but we don't have a lot of money, so yeah. We're kind of doing it bits.
They can rebuild him without the technology or money.
The $15 man.
Well, at least I'm worth that much.
There you go. You got something. That's something going for you.
Exactly.
But it is Halloween, which it is Halloween week, and for some reason it's such a popular. I still don't get it. I never will. I'm more of a Christmas person. But people like the drudge and dreariness and horror and scariness of Halloween, and some of the I can't even imagine what LA looks like with some of the house decorations as far as Halloween.
People don't go as all out as you would think here. It's more along the lines of parties and stuff like that. Like,
okay.
You can just see people randomly dressed up in costume. Like Friday night, I went out with my friends. There's in Burbank near where I live. They do Food Truck Friday. It's the last Friday of every month. It's the last Friday of every month, and a bunch of food trucks lined up along one avenue, and you just walk to the ones that you want to go to. But just casually wandering around, and there are people in full Halloween costume already, probably going to parties or something that night, but stopped for a little dinner first.
There you go. A little nosh, a little amuse-bouche, if you will.
So, yeah, exactly. Or a full, or a full set of tacos and some ice cream.
I don't know. Some of these costumes I see people wear, very revealing. They may want to eat too much.
Or they may just be contributing to their costume depending on their size.
This is true. Yeah. Dude Thor, such an easy costume to do this year.
Seems to be a very popular one this year too, for good reason.
I can pull it off with ease. So but we're talking Halloween, and we're gonna get kind of right into it. A couple weeks ago, you and Anthony Chu from the Yin and the Yang podcast had done a great top 10 or top 19, if you will, of NES games. And we had this we talked about this prior to that episode. So as far as I'm concerned, this is the true countdown, and we're gonna do our top 10 horror genre games.
Mm-hmm. And this is definitely a top 10 I was all in for, because as you know, the horror genre is one of my favorite genres in video games. And
you live for it.
Yes, I do. I live and I will die for it. But
weird. Oh, actually, hold on. With that being said, hang tight. Hey, did you hear about this haunted house that is offering a $20,000 grand prize if you survive it?
No. And where is it? Because I want to go.
No. I don't think you want it, because when you look more into it, I don't know how they have not been shut down for legal purposes. I forgot where it is. I want to say it's in the Midwest somewhere. This guy has this haunted house. You have to pass a physical. You have to sign a 40-page waiver and a bunch of other requirements that you have to pass. The ordeal can last between 4 and 6 hours, but basically you are consenting to the fact that you can be hit, bludgeoned, forced to eat things that you don't know you're eating. The trailer, if you will, for this horror, it looks like something out of an actual Saw situation. People are bound, gagged, water tortured, I'm not even joking. This is literally what's happening in the haunted house. There's stuff being shoved into people's mouths. I don't know if it's their own blood or someone else's blood that's on them. There was one scene of this guy, and like literally, like a pendulum was like just getting this close, maybe even just barely just scraped him or something.
Mhm.
And they're saying like everyone's here at their own free will. They actually had to allow people to use a safe word where there wasn't one before. But if no one has ever lasted it. I shouldn't say survive, but no one has
Yes.
lasted it. But it's like a 6 hour ordeal. One person left with like a broken leg and traumatic experience, and the police have been called, but yet there's like a 24,000 name wait list.
Hmm. Well, based on that, it actually sounds strangely familiar to an experience. There's one of those type of experiences down towards San Diego, and it's been around for years. And they do the same thing, sign waivers and all that stuff. And they do a lot of the stuff that you just mentioned.
It's nuts.
Yeah, but at the same time, despite the fact that they you sign waivers and stuff like that, they've been sued multiple times and they've had to readjust themselves and stuff. To me, this doesn't necessarily sound like something anybody should be doing because of personal safety. You should never legally, doesn't matter what you sign. You can't sign away your right to have yourself physically maimed in any way. So if they broke somebody's leg, they should have been shut down immediately.
It's so and the entry fee is a bag of dog food for the owner's dog.
Okay.
I don't get it. I don't know. Me and my friend were talking about it, like, oh, that seems easy enough. Then we watched like the trailer, and we were like, nope, we're out. It's not.
No, I think you got to draw a line at some point, and I think I have a feeling that if they are still if this is still in business, it shouldn't be much longer.
It's something like they've been around for like 30 years or something like that. I don't know.
So, and you said it's in the Midwest?
I maybe in the mid. I don't remember. Oh, see, now you're gonna make me look it up. I don't remember a whole bunch like where it is exactly. Okay. But
only because it sounds like the one down south for me right now. Like it sounds very familiar to that.
Definitely wasn't in California.
Okay.
Here we go. Extreme Haunted House. I know we're off track, but this is nuts to hear about.
We're talking Halloween, and this is basically a video game come to life.
Tennessee, Summertown, Tennessee. Let's see. It's called the McCamey Manor.
McCamey Manor.
McCamey Manor. You looked it up?
Oh.
You've heard about it.
No, because that's the one down near San Diego. They must have moved. Because maybe they got booted out of California.
No, this was maybe because this is from 2019. This article, like last week.
No, that's what I mean. Yeah. They used to be set up here in California.
Previously located in San Diego. Yep, I'm sorry. All right, there you go. Yep. That's the one. All right.
Either they moved or got booted.
If you want to check it out, they're featured in a Netflix show, an episode. It's called Haunters: The Art of the Scare, part of the series Dark Tourist on Netflix. So
I've actually heard of that show. All right, but let's move on to video games.
All right, so let's get into this before everything starts shutting down and all hell breaks loose in the world.
I think that sounds like a really good plan.
So we have our 10. I think kind of like when you and Anthony did your top 10. A, it's in no particular order, and B, it's your top 10. It's my 10. It's not like the grandiose top 10.
Yeah, no, we wouldn't. We're not that egocentric that we think that our top 10 should be everybody's top 10. So because everybody's gonna have their personal.
Well, I mean, we are, but for now, we're gonna just you're just gonna hear us and like what we have. Hopefully.
Hopefully, yes.
Okay, so let's get right into it. I guess I'll do 5, you do 5.
Yep. And by the way, I do have mine in order.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, no, mine. I mean, I can try and do it in some sort of order. But first, I would like to do an honorable mention because I feel like that is the way to go. This is a more recent game And really, it's only the demo that I played. But when I played it, I did have to change my underwear. It was Until Dawn Rush of Blood. It's on the
Mhm.
PlayStation VR. It's on the first or second, maybe both, demo discs. That's where I
Yes.
played it. I could not get the VR headset off my head fast enough. That's how terrifying this thing was.
Yeah, it's a great game. I actually own the full game.
Oh,
So,
do you? Okay.
oh yeah, it's a blast. Literally.
It's a pip. Yeah, you're on a rail and just, when you got the headset on, you just, and of course you got all the sensory deprivation just all
Hmm.
around you. And you look to the side, there's someone crying, look to the side, there's a clown. You look back and forth, it's just creepy, and it shows off how good that VR software is. So
It definitely does, and it's a great. It's basically a shooting game. You're going through like 5 stages, and they're all like different horror themes.
mhm.
And basically the idea is to shoot, the stuff that's coming at you.
You go.
And they do like a creepy clown one. They do a slaughterhouse one. It's definitely frightening, especially in VR. So
Yeah.
yeah, but it's a lot of fun too if you happen to like those types of games.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't. So,
Nope.
but I have played my fair share of horror games. So here are my the first one, speaking of shooters, this one not only horror based but very very controversial, which sometimes horror kind of goes hand in hand. Horror and controversy, it can. I mean, we were just talking
Hmm.
about that stupid haunted house. Um Chiller. Chiller,
Oh yes.
both the arcade game, and it did come out on the NES.
Hmm.
Um, it's an unlicensed game on the NES, so never officially
Hmm.
came out.
And
Does not have
rightfully
the
so.
seal. Does not have the seal of approval whatsoever from
Oh, and I wonder
Nintendo.
why.
But this game, and I've had a chance to play the arcade version as well. Barcade has it. It's
Hmm.
wild, man. I mean, have you ever played Chiller?
Yeah, they have it at Barcade here in LA.
Oh, you have it over there as well. Okay.
Yep.
Basically, it's a shooter. It's a light gun, both the arcade version and the home version. And the arcade version is basically you're a torturer, and you got all these men and women in these torture devices, or at least in the first level.
Yep.
No, well, yeah, and you're just basically shooting off limbs, shooting off heads, shooting off skin. It's nuts.
It's awesome.
And as much as it's an unlicensed port, there was still some changes between the arcade and the NES. I'm not talking just because of hardware. Just the biggest difference, which I find odd for an unlicensed game, is that the NES version, you're shooting monsters. You're not shooting people.
Mm.
So that kind of almost justifies it, what they say here, back in the Middle Ages, a castle on the outskirts of town has been invaded by an evil force, which is causing the dead to come back to life. So, so
Mhm.
you're actually the hero in the game for the NES version. So,
Well, you have to be the hero in some sense. I cannot, for the arcade game, you're just a horrible human being, basically.
so another wonderful game in a horror series that I remember when I first played when I was younger. It did frighten me a little bit. Splatterhouse on Genesis.
Ah,
Excuse me,
yes,
TurboGrafx 16. I apologize, TurboGrafx 16.
that's
Um,
correct.
I mean, creep. I mean, it's still creepy today. You got like
Hmm.
this buffed up Jason type character,
Hmm.
who just picks things up and puts them down. And you're going through, you got the zombies, you got the just the acid coming out of these decaying bodies,
Hmm.
and then like your main weapon sometimes is a 2x4, which I find hysterical.
Yes.
And then
All monsters can be killed with a 2x4.
This is true. The level designs are very good. The gameplay is very straightforward, is awesome. But I got to give kudos to this game as far as with its boss levels.
Hmm.
Very difficult as a boss level should be, but also when you first play the game, you catch on after a while. But when you're done with the boss level, the boss always has that one final shot to get you. And if you're
Hmm.
not paying attention and you get hit, you're done ski and you got to do the
Yep.
thing over again. I thought that was very ingenious.
Yeah, it definitely upped the difficulty rating for this game for sure.
Yeah.
It's not an easy game to get through.
No, no, God, not at all. Another great game based on a series of movies that I absolutely love, and for those in college need to do a thesis on the evolution of a hero, look to this trilogy of movies. I'm
Mm.
talking about Evil Dead, and I'm talking about
Mhm.
specifically Hail to the King, which I had on Dreamcast.
Yes, that was a really great game. Great
Oh,
horror
great
game
game.
for sure. Mhm.
Great heart, definitely. The movies themselves are fantastic, but what's great about it is it's horror, but it's got a comedic tinge to it.
Yeah.
Um, and of course, Ash has some of the best lines. Forget
Mhm.
Duke Nukem with his. Well, Duke Nukem is kind of, I think, based off of Ash. Um, with some of his one-liners, and
Mhm.
some of them I can't even repeat here. But go check out the movies. But Evil Dead: Hail to the King, even though it did play a lot like Resident Evil, which I
Mhm.
wasn't a fan of the original Resident Evil game, gameplay wise. Um, I don't know. I guess it was just Evil Dead. I finally just kind of got used to it, which then let me go back and start playing Resident Evil in a weird way.
Yeah, I think yeah, that whole third person perspective and the whole survival horror aspect of that type of game. But yeah, to your point, like skinning it with Ash and going with that whole franchise, which is one of the best I want to say indie franchises, like horror franchises. Like they
I
did
think
such a
so.
great
Yeah.
job with so little. Um,
No. Oh,
at least for the
totally.
first
And
two. Yeah.
first, even with the third one was more big budget. I get Army of
Mhm.
Darkness, but and the remake, movie wise, the remake is a just straight on horror movie.
Mhm.
But like I was saying, like you get the first Evil Dead, which is straight up horror, and then the second one, which is kind of a remake of the first one because they lost the rights to the first one, so they had to kind of redo the first
Yeah.
one in the second movie. But then Ash gets a little more gumption to him, and then there's Army of Darkness, which is just fantastic.
Yes. In all its cheesy glory, it really
Oh
is.
man, really? It's
But
it's
yeah, Hail to the King, though, if you haven't played that on Dreamcast and you still have a Dreamcast, it's definitely worth picking up and playing. No question.
It was also available on PlayStation and Windows. And what's
Hmm.
funny is the studio, Heavy Iron Studio, this was their first game. After this, they would go to work on SpongeBob SquarePants and various Pixar games.
Okay. It's kind of like what they tell people when they move to Hollywood and they say, "Oh, I want to be in the movies. I want to be a director. I want to be a writer," and they all turn around and say, "Do a horror movie first." Um, it's true. Nah, it's a true thing. It's like because
Yes.
horror movies are kind of low budget, and what it is
Yeah.
it gives you something to put on your resume. And a lot of people who have done horror movies have gone on to do successful blockbuster franchises. Sam Raimi, who did horror movies, wound up doing three Spider-Man
Spider.
movies.
Yep.
Yeah.
We were just talking this weekend. We were talking about the Leprechaun series. In the
Mhm.
first Leprechaun movie, who was the star of the first Leprechaun movie?
Rachel.
Exactly, from Friends.
Rachel from
So,
Friends, Jennifer Aniston. Yep.
yeah, so it's nuts what you see. Speaking of movies, the a lot of these horror movies, horror games did become movies. Some worked, some did not. Here's one that at least the first one worked, but I think then the subsequent ones didn't work so well. Game wise, it scared the hell out of me, and I'm very specific here with Silent Hill 2.
Yes. Silent Hill 2.
So I didn't play the first Silent Hill on PlayStation, so I of course jumped right into Silent Hill 2 on the PS2. So why not? Give me the better graphics. Give me the overall creepiness look to the game. Um, and it's Silent Hill 2 definitely shocked me, and I never, trust me, I didn't get far into it. But I was like, I don't feel like playing this game. This is just creeping me out a little too much. And it's
Hmm.
more like a psychological aspect as well. It's weird.
Yes. Yeah, it definitely plays tricks with your it definitely plays tricks on you like mentally. It really does. And that's part of the appeal of the Silent Hill series because it's
Yes.
not just it's not just about the physical scares that are coming at you, it's the mental ones too that really play well.
And not only that, but also on the PlayStation, it's the PlayStation's um uh lack of capability, if you
Hmm.
will, that made it very much of a horror. That's why you had that cloud, that fog in Silent Hill, because they couldn't render it quick enough.
Yeah, exactly. You know what though? The mist or the fog or whatever it was just really played into the whole thing. It made it great.
Yeah. And then another one that kind of sort of became a movie. I'll explain in a moment, but I did play it. I played it on my... I forgot what I played it on. I think I played it on my iPad one time. Five Nights at Freddy's.
Oh, okay. A newer game. Okay.
It is a newer game, but, you know, here's what scared you about it. Now, it's basically it's a point and click game. So it's not really you're moving or anything, but it's the anticipation. That's what gets me. Like, yes. The game anticipation, didn't get me as much as this stuff does. It's the knowing that something might be coming, and you're trying to stop. You know what I mean, like that. So what you do is you work as a night security guard at this kind of a Chuck E. Cheese type place, and you only got like 5 or 6 screens, kind of like Night Trap. That's what so kind of like that, where you kind of bouncing back and forth, and the animatronics are coming to life and they're coming after you, and I think like when you catch one on screen, that's how you stop them or something. But that just anticipation of like, where the hell is it coming from, where's it coming from, and then all of a sudden like a bear just shows up and jump scares you and kills you. Fun fact, it was supposed to be made into a movie. They didn't get the rights to it. So now you have the Banana Splits movie, which is a straight up horror movie, basically in the vein of Five Nights at Freddy's, but based on the wildly popular children's 60s television show.
Yes, which reminds me, I need to see that movie.
Oh, it is fantastic. We saw it just for fun. You know what it is? It's gorier than you would ever expect a movie like that to be.
Well, I'm expecting they have to go over the top what they're considering the source material.
That's the whole. It's like we'll watch it. We're like, wow, they did that. Fair enough. Nice. I think you'll enjoy. But again, don't go into it expecting it to be like, a 5-star Hollywood aspect.
Oh, no. I'm not. Yeah. I wouldn't expect that at all. I'm expecting more killer clowns from outer space than anything else.
Great movie. That needs a video game.
Yes.
So those are my 5. We're gonna split it up here. Yes. I kind of ran through that pretty quick, but it's pretty straightforward. So the rest of mine, I think, would be really good to talk about. A couple of them specifically.
Okay, very cool. All right, so I actually did try to list my games in terms of what are my top 10, and I kept it. I also kept it retro. If I didn't keep it retro, you'd be hearing all about Dead by Daylight and Friday the 13th on my PS4. So I didn't want to do that. Five Nights. I don't know why I thought it was a little older. I kind of forgot how new it was, but still, no, dude, it's all good. I mean, we're not. Look, we're kind of making up the rules on our, for our own lists, so it's perfectly fine. It was hard for me to narrow it down to 10 because I have so many horror games and. I've played so many horror games over the course of time, and also trying to figure out how to determine which games were horror in my eyes and which weren't. So, for example, I love the Castlevania franchise, but I wouldn't necessarily put it on my list as a horror game.
Interesting. Okay.
I also tried to steer away from the games that were a little comedic, but one of them snuck onto my list, which we'll figure out. I will point out a couple of honorable mentions, and when I say a couple, I mean 3.
Oh, so a few.
So I have an honorable mention, and then an honorable mention, and an honorable mention. How's that?
It sounds good to me. You lost me at honorable.
Yes, I probably lost most people there. But anyway, so the first honorable mention I want to throw out there, again, based on one of my favorite television shows of all time. Again, horror, kind of, sort of, but not really scary. But Buffy the Vampire Slayer on Xbox. Definitely an awesome horror-based game, kind of, sort of.
It's funny you say that about Castlevania, and then I was thinking Buffy. And I'm like, I don't know, is that kind of horror? Because it is, I thought it was more, it had a lot of comedic value to it. I mean, I can understand why it's an honorable mention, don't get me wrong. But that game, the first one, was fantastic.
Yes, it was. The second one was kind of.
It was all right. Chaos
all right,
Bleeds. It was all right.
Yeah, but the first one was great.
Yep.
If you've never played it and you can still have an Xbox, I highly recommend you go seek it out. Great, third person. You play as Buffy, and basically it's kind of like going through the show. Like they really focused on the story elements to it, so that you actually felt like you were having an experience as being Buffy on the show. And I just thought it was really, really well done. Again, honorable mention because
I get it.
Super horror like.
Yeah.
Anyway, the other two that I wanted to mention, I'm going to mention together because they're both from the same franchise. Again, horror movie game franchise. If you look over my shoulder, you'll see a poster for the cover of the game.
Oh,
if you can make
Monopoly?
Yes.
Scary game, yeah.
Over the other shoulder.
I'm sorry.
Yes. So, and I'm talking about Friday the 13th for the NES, and this was a different game. Friday the 13th for the Commodore 64. Now,
okay, let's talk about that one.
Yeah, so the NES one everybody knows about, and it wasn't very well received. But again, when I bought it, I was a kid. That game would scare me, especially when like the children were in danger. You had to go save like the poor kids because if you didn't get there fast, that was the best part about that game. It's like there are 5 kids in a cabin and Jason's threatening them. Depending on how quickly you get there, will tell you how many kids are left. So basically, you'll get into the cabin and see 3 of them, which means he slaughtered 2 of them there before you got there.
Wasn't it also like the first NES game to actually say like you're dead or something like that?
Yes, I think. Yeah,
I think so. One up.
You and your friends are dead. Game over. That's
oh, my friends are dead. Yeah. It's
but the Commodore 64 one, I was introduced earlier than the NES one, and again, it's not a good game. I can't recommend it as being a great game, but the whole concept of the game, it came out in 1985, and the idea was, again, you're a camp counselor, and a bunch of your friends are there as well. Jason is there slaughtering the other camp counselors, but he's disguised as a counselor. The only way the only way you expose Jason is if you hit the other counselors, and then the one that's Jason turns into an all black figure.
Why are you punching me? Why are you punching me?
Yeah, basically. But the cool thing about it is that, like, you pick up weapons along the way and stuff like that. When other counselors would get murdered, the game would randomly generate an image that would literally pop up on the screen with like this really loud sound that would scare the crap out of you. And it was basically, if I remember correctly, like Jason's hand with a machete decapitating somebody. And for a game on the Commodore 64, seeing an image like that was actually incredibly graphic and really fun, and scary at the same time.
Look at this. I pulled it up on YouTube. Yeah, I'm watching it right now.
Yeah, I remember jumping all the time whenever that severed head would pop up on the screen.
I'm trying to find that. Yeah.
So those are my honorable mention, the 2 Friday the 13th games. Getting into my actual list, number 10. Number 10, Larry and I both know it. Again, it plays more for comedic, but it's cheesy, horror-based, really fun. Basically where Five Nights at Freddy's concept came from. And we are talking about on the Sega CD, the original.
Oh, there we go. Night Trap.
And I also have the limited run games.
Oh, they can go straight to hell. Okay. But I like the red box better.
I thought you just bought something from them.
Look, sometimes you gotta lose to win.
Yes, this is actually the original Sega CD.
The OG.
The OG. This is the OG. Really, really cool.
Very cool.
And again, it's basically a horror movie that happens in real time. And your job is to look at the security cameras and stop the evil vampires from destroying all the women at the slumber party.
And Dana Plato playing a detective is the scariest thing of the whole game.
That is very true. From Different Strokes to Night Trap to death. Sorry, Dana. But anyway, Night Trap again. I'm sure you've heard a million things about this game. The controversy, the actual game itself.
I think it's $5 right now on the Switch digital version.
And to be honest with you, for the $5, it's actually worth it. You
Oh,
know, I mean,
totally.
and apparently, I don't know if there was some type of curse with these full motion video games because I bought Double Switch on the PlayStation 4, which stars
Okay.
the late Corey Haim.
Yeah, I know. A lot of these guys aren't. It's
I don't,
God, God help us with the CNC Music Factory game from PlayStation.
oh yeah, no,
CD.
you know what? They're still kicking. Okay, but not, but Crisscross was the other one.
Oh, that's true. Oh, Bonky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
Oh, and you know what? Yeah, okay. So
Yep.
you know, all right. My theory has been
Good.
disproven.
We're good.
Okay,
Thank
good.
goodness. Thank goodness.
Thank God. Thank God. It's
Double
dude,
Switch is a weird game.
yeah. Which one? Double Switch. Yeah,
Oh,
it's just
Double Switch.
it's
Yeah,
just
I have it.
weird and beyond low rent. Like at least this one like had the semblance of a horror movie. Double Switch is just like fake. You can see the fake sets and all that. It's
Because you go into Night Trap. Yeah, you go into Night Trap and you're like, Dana Plato. All right. But you go into
Double
Switch. And you're like, oh, Corey Hames, eject.
basically. But anyway, Night Trap was number 10 on my list. Moving up to number 9, it's a game that you mentioned, but it was actually the sequel to the game that I enjoyed more. And I'm talking about Splatterhouse 3 on the Sega Genesis.
Okay, maybe that's when I said Genesis. I think that was what I was thinking of.
Yeah, that was the one that I was actually introduced to because I didn't have a TurboGrafx 16. But Splatterhouse 3, same reasons you said for the, you know, the horror, the graphics were great for a horror game. It was definitely gory and for what it was. I still will never get those ugly blob things out of my head. The blobs with the giant open mouth, and then when they would die, like they would just kind of open even more until they fell into the floor. And again, the bosses super hard, super challenging.
Yeah, it's crazy. Good, but crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And then you and your trusty 2x4. You know, you just needed that thing. But again, yeah, Splatterhouse is a great horror series if you've never played it. Barcade actually in LA has the first one in
nice
in LA.
Okay.
So that's really cool. I actually have the first one on TurboGrafx 16. I bought it on one of my many trips to Japan.
Sweet. Good pull.
Yeah, which is really, yeah, definitely. I'm very happy to have that in my collection. And soon to be on the TurboGrafx 16 Mini, if I'm not mistaken. It is going to make...
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it is going to make it onto there. So if you've never played it, you'll have an opportunity when that comes out next year. But yeah, Splatterhouse 3, definitely one of my favorites. Jumping up to number 8. And I was actually really surprised because I used to talk about this game all the time on this show. And I bring it up every October. And I'm actually surprised it was this low on my list at number 8. And I'm talking about on the PlayStation, Tecmo's Deception.
Oh, yes. I remember when we first started this podcast, which unfortunately you won't be able to listen to anymore. Yeah, well, actually you can on my YouTube channel, More365. They're still there. You talked about that a lot. And I don't remember you playing it. That's the weird thing.
Well, I know, and I don't understand how you don't remember me. I mean, I bought this game just based on the concept alone. I didn't buy it based on reviews or anything like that. And for me, it was just a really fun game. Little did I know, 20 plus years later, did I find out that not only was, you know, this game known, but there was a whole franchise.
Yeah, there's a few of them, right?
At least 4. And I do own 4 of them.
Okay.
I think there was a 5th one that came out recently that I did not get, but I do have 4 of them in my collection. And it's just, again, horror-based game. You are wrongfully murdered for the death of a princess, and your soul is so angry that you make a deal with the devil to come back and punish everybody for wrongfully executing you.
Oh wow!
Perfect concept.
Makes sense to me.
But again, it's one of the reasons why you probably didn't see me play it that much. It was a first-person perspective, and you know how I struggle with those.
Yeah, you're not crazy about those, yeah.
No, I'm not. Well, they give me headaches, so I just.
Like, I don't ever remember you. I don't ever remember you even talking about it. That's the weird thing. I don't know. It's just one of those games.
Definitely worth checking out if you like something dark.
Fair enough.
And the whole idea is like people come into your castle. You set traps up to capture them, and then you choose whether you want to kill them for their soul or for their money.
That's what I do in the apartment.
Well, you know, that's what I do out here in LA. It's why I came back. It's very successful business. Moving on to number 7. You'll also find on my list. Normally, we're very Nintendo heavy on our list, and what I found as I went through it is this definitely was not a Nintendo heavy list. Almost all of my games are disc based.
You're right. I think that's just because of what Nintendo was.
Exactly.
So.
And I'm perfectly happy for us representing other consoles. Number 7, it's the only Dreamcast game I have on my list, and I have talked about this one before, and I probably talk about it every October. It's a survival horror game. Oh, that's funny. Survival horror game, not very common, hard to find. Thankfully, I still have my original Illbleed.
Illbleed. Nice.
For those of you who don't know what kind of game this is, imagine, if you will, a berserk B-movie horror film producer with a twisted sense of humor who puts up $1 million to anyone who can survive his 7 movie-themed worlds. It's a bloody mess of mutant monsters, over 1,000 traps and items, and abject terror fused with B-movie humor. So,
does it take place in Tennessee?
Yes. But anyway, so Illbleed definitely survival horror based. And the cool thing about it is that you go into the game, you're not armed with a weapon. It's basically you're going through these stages, and you have like a heart rate level. And the idea is to predict where the scares are coming from, because if they scare you too much, you basically drop dead of a heart attack.
Gotcha. Wow.
And then at the end of every level, there's a boss that you have to fight. And again, when you're fighting him, you're using the environment around you to defeat him. You're not using a weapon because you don't have one.
That's interesting. I like that.
What's even more interesting is to let you know that I bought this on July 1st, 2001 at Software Etc.
because I still have the receipt. Good Lord. Cash, everything.
Cash. I paid $43.29 in cash at Software Etc. Well, when I used to buy games back in the day, I would always take the receipt and just stick it in there in case I needed to return it for whatever reason. So most of my games, even today when I buy them, I do the same thing. Almost a large portion of my collection has receipts.
The receipts. That is awesome.
It's just what I did.
And it's good for tax purposes, I guess.
And it's great for tax, especially if we're going to start writing this stuff off. The next game, this is number 6 on my list, and then after this one, we'll take a little bit of a break to get to our top 5s. I'm very disappointed that I don't have the box for this game, because you know how I am. I like my games complete.
Yeah, you like them 100%.
100%. And I don't know what happened to this one specifically, because I remember I used to take a lot of care with it. And not only that, I used to own the sequel to this game, and it disappeared. And that really upsets me. But
not good.
Survival horror game, again, on the PlayStation. It's more of a slow burn kind of thing, because it's a point and click kind of game. But again, in the vein of like Scream. Scream came out around the same time I picked up this game, and this was the closest I can get to a video game version of Scream, and I am talking about Clock Tower.
Yes, Clock Tower.
Clock Tower, which again,
I remember you playing a lot.
Yeah, it's a point and click survival horror game with a murderer called Scissor Man who killed you with giant scissors. And the idea about the game is literally it's like going through a horror movie. It's kind of the way you would almost play Until Dawn today, where you did some investigations, you're looking into the story of Scissor Man, and then he would randomly show up at night, try to kill you, and the object was to survive the night so you can continue the story. And then the idea behind the game, again, similar to Until Dawn, the decisions you make and the stuff you uncover throughout the course of the game opened up one of 10 different endings.
Oh, wow.
So there was definitely a replay value to it, because based on the decisions you make and what you find, you get different endings to the game. So it was definitely worth. It was definitely worth playing. It can be a little slow going, because again, we're talking about PlayStation. So imagine reading all of the text and the information, and then
load times.
Yeah. So it's definitely a slow game. So you got to have the patience to play it. But for me, there was always a good payoff for it, because again, it gave me that kind of survival horror-esque kind of game. In fact, I think somewhere around 99 or 2000, when Scream 3 was coming out, they had announced that they were going to make a Scream movie game, and it was going to be very similar to the Clock Tower style.
That's interesting.
And there were actually screens released for it, but
I think I've seen that. Yeah.
Never got fully completed, because it would be really, actually, even today, it would be really cool if you did like a Scream-based game with on PS4 or something like that. Would be really cool. So those are my bottom 5 of the top 10. Larry, you gave 5 of your 10. I know you don't have them
I
in any
did.
order.
Yeah, I even read them
Uh,
out of order that I wrote them.
so why don't we just take a little bit of a we'll take a moment,
Okay.
and we'll come back with our top fives. All right, Larry, it is time for this week's Did You Know? And I got a really good one this time.
All right, let's
Well,
see. Let's see if
I
you
feel
can
like they're always kind of good, but that's my opinion
Yeah.
because I'm the one looking them up. So
By golly, they are damn good.
by golly, they are the best things ever. So I wanted to keep it related to our Halloween and horror special. Not only that, but I also wanted to keep related to one of the games on one of our lists. So this Did You Know segment is compliments of Night Trap. Now,
Oh,
yes,
okay.
there is one and only one secret found in the game Night Trap, and it's actually accessed at the end of the credits. So once you get through the game and you get to the credit sequence, at the end of the credits, it says, "In memory of Stephen D. Hassenfeld." When you
Okay.
get to that memoriam, you press up, A. That's 5 A's. So up
Okay.
and then 5 A's. And
So
what
up
happens?
A.
Yeah, exactly. The Fonz would be proud. So press up in 5 A's, and what happens when you do that is you actually reveal a full motion video sequence that's not from Night Trap.
Oh,
It's actually footage from Hasbro's never released Nemo console. So back in the
wow.
90s, Hasbro was trying to release a console called Nemo. And so in this clip, the president and CEO of Digital Pictures, Tom Zito, is in the clip talking about the Hasbro Nemo. And in the footage, they're playing a demo for Nemo of a game called Scene of the Crime. What
Hmm.
game is Scene of the Crime? Night Trap.
Oh, really?
So it was going to be called Scene of the Crime on the Hasbro Nemo. And you get this cool little
That's
video
cool.
at the end hidden in the Night Trap game on the Sega CD. So again, just something really interesting and random that you wouldn't expect to find,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it's about another company trying to promote a console that never came out. So I thought that was a cool little hidden item that you can actually check out when you finish Night Trap.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of you who haven't finished Night Trap, or if you have, you did not know about this, go back and check it out. And that is this week's Did You Know?
All right, so we're back and we're getting ready to wrap this up as we are on the tail end on the other side of the lists for both me and Anthony. As you can tell, Anthony actually still has his games.
That's right.
Do I even have? I got one. I got one. Oh, I got. I can show one of them. I can
I
show
was
at
just gonna
least
say,
one of
well, I mean, full
them.
disclosure, not all of the games I've shown so far are my originals. A couple of them I
No,
had to repurchase.
of course, I get it. Shame on you. But so here are the.
Hey, but most of them are original. I showed you a receipt.
Yeah, you're exactly right. The receipts, that is fantastic. That's like when I bought the Genesis off my friend, and it was pristine receipt when I
Mhm.
bought the Genesis. I'm like, I need to pay you more money for this. Like, this is ridiculous. So, all right, so let's get right into it. A game that is probably now you talked earlier about this series that you don't consider necessarily to be horror. I do in a way that it's maybe not scary
Mhm.
to somebody, but it still has those, it's got zombies, it's got, maybe more the undead, it's got skeletons, it's got Dracula. I'm talking about the Castlevania series. So I
Yes.
would I would consider it horror. But to me, now on the NES, my favorite is Castlevania 3.
Right.
But I think one of the best Castlevanias overall, of which we will be able to play the original in March when it comes out on the TurboGrafx Mini, Castlevania Rondo of Blood.
Yes.
Known
Great
here
game.
as Absolutely. It's known here as Castlevania Dracula X, but I'm not talking about the Super Nintendo version because that was a little bit of a watered down version. I'm talking about the original PC Engine
Mhm.
version, which the only version I saw on a virtual console was on the original Wii, which that's not even available anymore.
Oh wow.
So luckily,
What about
they shut down.
right? But what about the PS4 one that came out in the anniversary collection,
Well,
or that 2-pack? It came with Symphony of the Night.
that may be the original.
Mhm.
Um, It could be, I guess. I guess that would be. But I remember for the longest time, the only way I was able to play was through the Wii version.
Right.
Because like talking about like owning it on Super Nintendo, like a version here. But yeah, Rondo of Blood is fantastic. The reason why the PC Engine I think is a lot better. It's got more blood in it, if you will. You know, like when you die, you actually like almost explode. The gameplay is fantastic. Oh yeah, gameplay is fantastic. I think I played a run through of it once before on one of our live streams. And I would definitely for the story of it, I would definitely consider it horror. So Rondo of Blood definitely up there.
Awesome.
This game, man, actually we've played. Actually, I've played. You've played. All of our friends played it. We all played it online, and I'm talking about for the Xbox 360, Left 4 Dead.
Yes. Again, what might have made my list if I was thinking more current stuff.
Yeah, 360s starting to get borderline as we move up. Starting to get there. But I couldn't do this list without really mentioning Left 4 Dead because it is what it is. It's kind of like you're playing through a movie. That's how it's designed. 4 survivors, and you're trying to get through the end, and you just got all these undead trying to kill you. I love it just for the sheer zaniness of us playing on Xbox Live. And just everyone Jonathan, we love you, but you literally left us for dead many times in the game.
Yes, he did. I don't know why we ever tried saving that kid.
I don't know. But one of the best times I had is when we got 8 of us, like all 8 of us. Now it's only a 4-player game, but there was 8 of us, but we were playing 2 different games.
Yes.
4 of us were in one game, 4 of us in the other, but all 8 of us were in the same chat.
Yes.
So we didn't know.
It was just chaos. It was chaos.
I think it was the same level too. That was a fun one.
I thought that was one of the best things we've ever done. It was like the most brilliant thing ever. And the cool thing about Left 4 Dead, not only was it us playing, but I had, it wasn't long after I had moved to Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. So it was so at least when I first moved here, it was like a really great way to still like keep in touch with everybody was to
absolutely
go on play Left 4 Dead. And I also remember my roommate hating me whenever we played.
Just because you would have to play earlier than all we did. So
well, yeah, but she was also whenever she was in the house, she would just like roll her eyes and get really annoyed.
Stupid boys.
Sorry, not sorry. And that is why I live alone.
Yeah. You and me both. So Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2 was good as well. So that one's definitely a good one.
Definitely. There's actually one of the characters in Left 4 Dead is a character in Dead by Daylight. They carried him over.
Really? I didn't know that. Really?
Yeah.
Which one? Do you remember?
Bill, the older. Colonel.
That's cool. Mm-hmm. That's cool. All right. So 360, so forgive me, but this game definitely I love, especially because there is a big giant sticker on the front of the box saying this game has nothing to do with the George A. Romero movie Dawn of the Dead, and I'm talking Dead Rising.
Yes, Dead Rising is a really fun game.
Great series, even to today, some of the newer ones, but the original, you played as Frank, I'm trying to think of the guy's last name, but you play as Frank, this reporter.
Reporter?
Well, photographer, that's what it was. Well, it was a photographer for Yes. And like the beginning of the game, you're in a helicopter and you're just taking photos from the air. And when you take photos of these gruesome scenes of like survivors being attacked by zombies, and the next thing you know, you're locked in a mall and the zombies break in. Gee, I wonder why they had to put a sticker on the front of the box to say it had to do with it. But the gameplay was phenomenal. Basically, you're able to use like anything as a weapon. The story was great, and it really carried on a lot of different, all the way up to Dead Rising 4 and some of the offshoots of it. If you haven't played it, definitely check out Dead Rising.
Definitely.
And my final 2 games are of the same series. I have
a feeling I know what they are.
It's safe to say the horror series on home console. So we're talking Resident Evil, the series. Even great movies. As much as they may get a little cheesy, to me, the cheese factor, hence the shirt, the cheese factor, to me, actually makes the movies more fun to watch. But the first one was amazing. The first movie, Resident Evil movie.
No, I go for more quality movies, like,
Whatever. Um, so, so the first one I want to talk about is Resident Evil 3 Nemesis.
Oh, Nemesis. Oh my God, that
Yes,
game.
and
That game used to drive me crazy.
yes, and it goes back to what I mentioned before during Five Nights at Freddy with that constant. There's something constantly coming after you
Yes.
that cannot be stopped, and we're talking Nemesis.
Yes.
Right as the game starts, it's constantly coming after
He's
you.
just running right at you. He's like,
Yeah.
stars. And that's it. And off he goes.
And that's what makes me panicky about the game.
Mhm.
Is that part of it. So and the game speaks for itself. It's like the other Resident Evil games, but it's just the game is fantastic. And also I'm gonna be honest with you, the kind of reason why I'm kind of blowing through my list is I kind of bit my tongue, not to be gross, but this is a horror episode. And it's really hard to talk, so it does kind of hurt when I talk. But I'm gonna power through this because gosh darn it, I'm a professional.
I will not be satisfied until I see blood coming out of your mouth.
Well, it may be soon. In all honesty, the way I'm talking, it's right on the side of my tongue. All right, so this is the game I can actually show.
Which is, here we go.
The remake of Resident Evil, specifically on GameCube.
On the GameCube, yes.
Now, they've redone it recently for the Xbox One and the PS4, and the Halloween sale is still going on. I got to pick up Resident Evil 2 remake.
Yes, it is still on sale.
2-disc, one of the classic 2-disc GameCube games. This game, I played the original Resident Evil. It is what it is. But when they jazzed up the graphics at the time for the GameCube, this is what really started freaking me out.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I turned the lights down. I was probably in college when this came out. So, I just turned the lights off. It was late at night. Popped this game in, very little music. You get that eeriness. And I think I told it before. You're walking down the hallway, and all that happened was like, I don't even think a dog went through it was like a pebble gets thrown through the window.
It's a dog in the beginning.
Was it a dog? I could have sworn it was a pebble.
No, a dog comes through the window in that hallway.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe that's me trying to push out the memory of the actual scene. So when that happens, I promptly turn the lights on, turn the game off, and I think didn't go to sleep for like 2 days.
Nice. And that is when you know a game is truly successful.
Oh God, it was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Game's fantastic, don't get me wrong, but terribly scary. And that's probably I'm trying to think, probably the only game that really like scared me. And it's weird because I was older, but still just being in the, you suspend disbelief and you're all in with this series and this game. And I didn't want nothing to do with it. So,
yeah. Well, Larry, if you really want something that scares you, I highly recommend you download Until Dawn Rush of Blood.
Well, if the demo scared me, then we'll see what the actual game does.
Yeah, Resident Evil is definitely one. I think you can make your own separate list for top Resident Evil games.
Oh yeah,
because it's so many of them are just amazing. All right, cool. So that's it for you. I have my top 5. I just gotta do something really fast here, and then we're gonna do this. All right, so some of my top 5 may be similar to yours, and when I say that, I think it's just or similar to games that you've already brought up. So bear with me. So number 5 for me was on the original PlayStation. You had mentioned the sequel earlier. I'm actually going with the OG, and I'm talking about Silent Hill.
Okay.
And again, the second one I feel like was superior in every way. I always have an affinity to the first ones because to me, the original one, if you didn't have that, you wouldn't have the sequel, which obviously is definitely much improved. But I personally loved the original one, running through that fog-laden town, all the creepy things that would pop out at you. I actually went to Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios when they did the Silent Hill maze, and they actually had the creepy nurse and the guy on the stilts with the pyramid head thing.
Oh wow, that's cool.
And they looked amazing. But again, the greatest thing about Silent Hill to me was how original the horror characters were. Yes. They weren't just standard, here's a mummy here, here's a zombie there, here's a corpse that came back to life type of thing. They just really worked out the details for all of these horror characters.
Very original.
Right, very original, and that's what I loved about it. And it was really fun to just play through the game because you would just get freaked out by whatever this new creepy thing was going to be that popped out at you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So definitely Silent Hill on number 5 on my list.
Cool.
Number 4 on my list is the only NES game to make my top 10. It actually made my top 10 on my other NES list, and that's just because I've always been a fan of the franchise. It's my favorite horror movie franchise of all times. I don't care if the game wasn't that great. It's the fact that I got to play the game related to it, and I'm talking about Nightmare on Elm Street on the NES, where you get to take down Freddy Krueger. I have beaten this game so many times. Yeah, the cartridge is actually in really good shape. I picked it up. I did pick it up. I think maybe last year. Yeah, last year or the year before at a show. Which also reminds me that there was a show we're recording today, and there was a show I was supposed to go to that I completely forgot about.
Oh,
oops. Somebody just told me about it on Friday. I'm like, I should go, and I'm like, completely forgot. Anyway, Nightmare on Elm Street, also one of the very few games back then that was a 4-player game. So if you had the multi-tap on the NES, you were able to play with 3 friends, which was great.
Did you play a lot multiplayer?
No, mostly 2-player, if anything. It very rarely got 3 or 4-player. I don't think I even owned a multi-tap, to be honest with you. A friend of mine did.
Okay.
So if we ever played with more than 2 players, it was a rarity. But just the idea of having a 4-player game, because there weren't a ton of 4-player games, and again, of all the games to be a 4-player game, Nightmare on Elm Street doesn't exactly scream 4-player game.
That is true.
But definitely one of my favorite games to play. Obviously had to make the horror list for sure at number 4.
Nice.
Number 3, you just mentioned it on your list, except I'm not. Well, no, you didn't just mention it. You did not mention it, actually.
Okay.
My mistake. I am talking about, and I'm going with the original PlayStation 1. They just remade it on the PlayStation 4. You just talked about buying it. Resident Evil 2.
Yes.
And the original PlayStation 1. Look, I've even got the crack in the front of my friggin'.
Oh, look at that! You even have the original.
Do I have the receipt? Let's see. Oh, no, I didn't keep the receipt on this one.
No,
but look, I do have the booklet.
Maybe you bought other games and it's in a different game.
I might.
There we go.
I just have the booklet. Look, they actually were promoting a comic book series, a strategy guide, and figures on the back.
Oh, there you go. Oh, nice figures.
But yeah, so Resident Evil 2, to me, I mean, it took everything in the first one and just ramped it up by like a factor of 10. This game, again, also 2 discs, 2 different playable characters, and 2 different experiences as you got through the game.
That's cool.
So, definitely, if you love zombie games and you have not played Resident Evil 2, either this one or any other or the remake that was just recently released, you are doing yourself a huge disservice. You really need to play this game. It is, it's one of the.
It's definitely one.
Yeah. No, it's a good game. It's a great game. It's an absolutely great game.
It's great.
So that's number 3 on my list. Number 2 on my list is a PC game, actually.
Okay.
So and we don't talk about PC that much, but back in the early to mid 90s when I got my first computer, obviously the cool thing about it wasn't that I can do my my college essays and homework and stuff on Microsoft Word. I can just type up my essays now. No, it was also so that I can pick up some really cool games. And again, I've talked about this game before. I am very proud to say that I still have my original game for the PC, even though I can't play it on anything anymore.
Oh, it's that old?
Well, it's DOS based.
Yeah. So no, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly.
Playing DOS-based games I don't think exist unless you own an old game. And again, full motion video, point-and-click adventure, puzzle solving, has all of the things that I love, and I am talking about The Seventh Guest.
Oh, of course, yes.
The Seventh Guest. And just, I mean, again, original packaging, which is great. I mean, you can definitely see it's all beat up because I've had this game for 26 years. So, and it's definitely, and it's managed to survive crossing the country and everything. The discs I don't have in here because I actually have them in a sleeve somewhere else.
Okay.
But what I also love about the game, aside from the whole story, the The story was basically that 6 guests entered a mansion promised a fortune, and the seventh guest was a mystery. And the person who figured it out wound up getting the fortune, but one by one, every guest in the house wound up dying. Until you uncovered who the 7th guest was. Spoiler alert, it's you.
Dang it. I was going to say the butler.
No, it wasn't the butler, it's you. But the whole concept of the game was about a man who opened a children's store, but the toys that he created were killing children.
Oh, again, that's never
concept.
Good.
Great concept. So anyway, just going through an old creepy mansion, uncovering the story, watching the story play out in full motion video. Again, cheesy acting and everything, which is awesome.
Of course.
Definitely makes this one almost number 1 on my list, just for the sheer. It had everything that I enjoyed. What I also love too is truly horrifying instructions on how to install and run the game, which they put right at.
Wow, that's a lot. Good Lord.
Yeah, a lot of instructions on how to install games. So, 7th guest, number 2 on my list. Number 1 on my list is a game you just mentioned, but again, I'm going back to the OG PlayStation version.
Oh, okay.
I know how much you love the GameCube one, but I got to go with Resident Evil, top of the list. If anything, it sparked the whole horror genre.
Oh, absolutely. No questions asked on that one.
Horror games were few and far between, and when you did run into them, especially on console, they weren't uber graphic. A lot of them, again, like we've talked about Splatterhouses, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, the graphics were always very colorful and simplistic, so that they really didn't get into real horror. It's only when the PC really started to come into being that we started to get more of that stuff.
I think so, yeah.
And again, we're talking about like games I haven't even mentioned, like Phantasmagoria and stuff like that, which really got brutal. But Resident Evil was the first one that really came to a mass-produced console that a lot of people loved or owned. And it really knew how to hit you with those scares. Like Larry said earlier, that dog jumping through the window. I remember playing this game in my bedroom in the dark, jumping out of my skin. Now, I didn't shut the game off. I kept playing, but
I didn't need to deal with any feature evil.
Just the whole idea. It was literally a B horror movie come to life, cheesy acting, lots of zombies. You died a million times because you could not find enough herbs. You could not find enough ink ribbons to save for your life.
Another reason why I hate that series.
Absolutely. But loved every aspect of the game. And I don't care what anybody says, never play as Chris. You got to play as Jill because Jill can carry 2 extra items and you needed those item slots.
That's true.
But Resident Evil, number 1 on my list for top horror games.
All right.
It wasn't even it was a little bit of a fight, but not much.
Sweet. And then that's it, folks. That is our 19 again horror genre games for 2019. We're going to see what we have in store for next year.
Yes,
which we'll plan later. And I think with that, we'll start to call it a day, right?
Yeah, no, that's it, except to wish everybody a very happy, spooky, and hopefully safe Halloween. Do not go to McCamey Manor.
But if you do, let us know what it's like.
Yeah, if you do, just tell us how much money you're going to be paying in therapy bills.
Maybe we'll do a podcast from there.
No, see, I won't even go there. There's a reason why they were driven out of California.
Right into Tennessee, backwoods of Tennessee. All right. So remember, folks, you can find us pretty much everywhere: social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Retro Gamers Podcast, over on Twitter at Retro Gamers Pod, and on Twitch at TRG_podcast.
Yep.
And hit them with the email and the website.
You can email us at email at theretrogamers.com, or you can check out our website at theretrogamers.com. You can hit us up on Instagram at what is our Instagram? I always forget that one.
Retro Gamers Pod. No, it's Retro Gamers Podcast.
Retro Gamers Podcast on Instagram, and of course, check us out on Facebook. Just look up Retro Gamers Podcast. You'll find us there.
There you go. And we will be back next week. We'll tell you if we got any bad candy. If anyone gives me candy corn, I'm going to throw it right back at them Because that's the worst.
No, you should at least put it in your mouth and spit it in their face. That's what you need to do.
Hey, candy corn and circus peanuts are the worst.
I actually like circus peanuts, but it's one of those things. And I actually like candy corn, but I can only eat like 5.
That's 5 more than I would want to.
After 5, I just can't stand the taste. It's like I have to eat them in small doses.
Fair enough. That's why Halloween is only once a year. And hey, again, happy birthday, Ant. Hopefully you would enjoy your birthday.
I plan on playing some horror games while eating a whole lot of cake.
Nice. That's as you should. And folks, we will catch you right here next week on the Retro Gamers Podcast.